All right, today we're talking about why marriage fails. Now, there's a lot of reasons why marriage can fail, but what we want to do is kind of break down the most prevalent ingredients that cause marriage to fail. One of the things that we must understand is that most of marriage, many people do a try. They don't do a will commitment. They're going to try to be married. And what they do is half of the time they're debating what would life be like if I were single? Wouldn't it be incredible if I had better choices? Wouldn't it be incredible if I didn't have all these responsibilities? Wouldn't it be incredible if I wasn't married to this turd who nags me all day long and who doesn't respect me? That is about 50%, if not 70% of the time in a person's head in any average marriage. And then there's the other 30% of the time where, oh, we had a great weekend. Wasn't it great to be a family together? Oh, we had just incredible sex, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly you're feeling really good about the relationship. Oh, we got along tonight. We made dinner together. We had a good time. We had a glass of wine. We went to a nice place. There's all, we went to a play, went to, a movie. We had fun. We laughed. Okay, there's all that. And then we have to realize the toll that the debate of should I stay or should I go takes on a marriage. And when people do the should I stay or should I go throughout their marriage, they are disintegrating the commitment made into their marriage. Now, from a Christian perspective, if you think about it, and I'll just take it from a Christian perspective, but the idea is that when a woman walks down the aisle, that is the commitment, that is the covenant that God gave to Abraham. When she wears a white dress, that represents the light of God, which is all Abraham could see. When she wears a veil that covers her face, that's because if Abraham saw God's face, he would die. The woman's representing God. They come together at the altar. Man's at the altar. They come up to the altar with the pastor or the priest there, and suddenly they do this covenant with each other. Love, honor, cherish, respect. Cherish. And the deal is that most of the time they half-ass make that commitment. And when they half-ass make that commitment to each other, they really are not going to be in a marriage that's going to be secure. It's going to be pretty miserable. Because if you're going to be married, you have to be all in or all out. That is what the commitment requires. You have to be all in or all out. And what's really funny is people will make an all in commitment to their kids. They'll make an all in commitment to their dog. They'll make an all in commitment to their job. They'll make an all in commitment to their car, but they won't make an all in commitment to their marriage, even to their house, but not to their marriage. And that is the weirdest thing on earth. So now we have a statistical evidence of about 70% of marriage, 68% of marriages end up in divorce. And so a lot of it goes back to integrity. Do these people who marry actually have integrity? Now, sometimes one has and the other doesn't. And sometimes if both don't have it, there's a problem. And so what you have to realize is it takes a lot of endurance. There is an ingredient that you have to make marriage smooth and make marriage work and make conflict very easy in the marriage. And that is a thing called unconditional acceptance. And what that means is if you think about someone who gave you unconditional acceptance in your life, some people never get it, but that's what you owe each other in marriage is unconditional acceptance. And then you would hope that you as a human being have unconditional self-acceptance for yourself, which would be great if you could do that, because that means you have forgiveness in your heart, not only for yourself, but for others. And so it's really important to understand that marriage is messy and it's complicated. And when you share a living space with another person and you tie your finances together and you know to negotiate sexuality and the countless decisions that daily life demands, it can really go badly really quick. And so we see the best in people in marriage and we see the worst in people in marriage. And the truth is, you never know really who you married till you divorce them. And you never know who a person is until the will is read. And that's when you really get the full Monty of every human being's potential. So what we have to understand is commitment is what drives a marriage. And that is a huge ingredient. But what women need in a marriage, if you want to make a marriage work, and this is all the way around the world, so I hope guys are listening, because it's the one thing that a woman has to have. And if she doesn't have it, she's going to wonder why she made this commitment to this turd who can't give it to her. And that is to be cherished. Cherished is I cannot be the man I am without her. I'm a better man with her when I am than I am without her. I don't even know why she's with me. You know, I'm lucky to have her. She's my best friend. It's that way when I'm with her. It's that way when I'm not with her. I love to talk about how incredible my wife is. Now, that's what a woman needs, but most men are too selfish and too immature to give that. However, they will stand up and make a vow that they're going to give it, but they're usually worthless as can be. And so, what we have to understand is if a man does not cherish a woman, she's going to nag you till you're dead. And what that means is also that she is going to have to give birth to children. She's going to have to make huge sacrifices in her career. If she's going to marry you, there's a good chance that all of that's going to happen. And she's stuck with this turd who does not cherish her. And yet she gave up the biggest investment in the marriage right away by sacrificing her body and then praying to God you're still attracted to whatever's left of it. And then she's stuck with these kids and dealing with them while you're off gallivanting in the hills, making your ego stronger and stronger and stronger. And so the deal is that she withdraws from life while you are vesting in life, and you think you're doing great things because I make the money and I do all this, but she's doing the hardest job, which is to stand up the home, stand up with the children, make a life, make everything safe, make everything good, getting the kids to their developmental stages. And guess what? She is losing her self-esteem because she's having to sacrifice herself. And that's why if you don't cherish her, you have no business being married. You have no business taking a commitment like that if you cannot cherish your wife. You need to get over yourself and get back to what it takes to be a man and be married. And that's what it takes if you're going to marry a woman. Now, if you want to be gay or whatever, you can do all kinds of crazy shit. But if you're going to be married, you probably have to cherish your wife to make it good. Okay, the main ingredient that a man needs is pretty simple. What a man needs is to feel respected. And that means, and this is what women do terribly, is they start developing a narrative about the man and how awful he is and focusing on his horrible qualities and what a horrible person he is and what he's not done to her and all of her victim themes and all her bemoaning of life and all her agony and crap that she loads on the guy. But the deal is he needs to feel like he has a voice in the marriage, and women love to take a man's voice away and demasculate him down to a woman. And so if you're going to take a man's voice away, and if you're going to be a turd and you got to be right all the time and you have to justify yourself on every single thing that you do, and you have to tell him how wrong he is, and you have to tell him what a crappy person he is for not washing the dishes or whatever you've got up your sleeve, you're probably not going to have a very good husband, because a husband is not going to respond well to a woman who does not respect him. Respect is listening. If he feels like he has a voice, like at least you will make a choice and consider his needs. Doesn't mean you're going to make a decision around his needs, but if you're going to consider his needs, he feels a little better in the marriage. And people are really crappy at both of these ingredients, but if you get those two straight from 30,000 feet up, you've got the basis of a relationship that's probably going to work better than the average marriage. And so it's really important, for us to be genuine in our relationship. And genuine means that I marry to give love. I do not marry to receive love. And many people love to bitch about the love that they're not getting. But that probably means that you're not giving either. And so if you're not going to give love unconditionally, give love, that's what you marry for, you're probably not going to get much love in return. And if you're standing there whining about the love you don't get, you're probably really not going to get the love you need. You are in the relationship to give love. That's it. That's all there is. It's a one-way street. And if both of you do it, you're going to receive all of the love and more than you want. But you have to learn each other's love language. If that's giving gifts, if that's quality time, if that's sex, if that's words of affirmation, all of that is very important. It's very important for you to know your partner's love language because that is a need and not a want. So, here's some things that ingredients that will take a marriage down. If you sacrifice your individual needs, and researchers suggest that the act of prioritizing the needs of the marriage over your personal desires is a conscious decision made by an individual rather than a passive acceptance of unfavorable circumstances. This often entails suppressing or disregarding your personal needs and aspirations. When people do that, when people sell out their individuality to be married, they resent and they develop a lot of anger and a lot of rage. And that rage will spell out in passive aggressive ways all over the place, meaning that you build up and you build up and it build up, and then some stupid thing happens where you didn't vacuum the house, and all of a sudden you blow up into a volcano because you're being called to the carpet on not vacuuming the house. And this is like 1,000 other conflicts you've had with this person, and then you turn into a crazy, and then all they talk about is how crazy you are rather than talk about the idea of not vacuuming the house. Now you're a crazy person who has no voice. Great. That's what a passive aggressive person is made of. They turn into a boiling teapot. And everybody focuses on how they blow rather than what they're trying to say. And it's really sad, but the passive aggressive person has to learn to communicate their emotions earlier on. If you're going to unwillingly make willingly make sacrifices, you have to make sure that you're not going to resent the sacrifices. And that means you have to have good boundaries. Boundaries is, here's what I can do and here's what I can't do. Because if I give this away, I'm going to resent. But if I give this away, I'm happy to give that. Can do, can't do is boundaries in a marriage. And it's a very important ingredient to have if you want to have a healthy marriage. Making sacrifices often grapples with discontentment over neglecting your own needs. So for instance, if you're never exercise because you're always taking care of the kids or always working or always doing something and you never take care of yourself, you're probably not going to fill your tank. And if you can't fill your tank, you're going to run out of gas. You have to fill your tank before you can fill everybody else's. You have to carve time for yourself into your marriage. And if you keep selling your time out to take care of yourself, there's a good chance you're going to run yourself to an end. And when you do that, you're going to tip over and things are not going to go well in your marriage and in your life. And you're going to blame everybody else for using you. But the deal is that you had terrible boundaries, and that's your problem. You created the problem by sacrificing your time. So what you have to understand is there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much you can do and what you can't do. The deal is you better prioritize pretty damn well what you can do and can't do. And if you're a perfectionist, you already lost your mind because life is not perfect. And calling yourself a perfectionist means that you're probably psychotic and you probably have issues like depression and anxiety, OCD, and all kinds of other stuff because those are the symptoms that come with it. It's really important to understand that sacrifices can be costly and leading to lower relationship satisfaction over the giver because they feel taken for granted. And so experiences with lower well-being and the receiver who has mixed feelings such as gratitude and guilt as a result of their sacrifice, this creates a lot of animosity in communication. You guys have to team well. If you're going to be in a relationship, you have to understand there is a limit to what you can give. And you've got to respect that. That makes things safer for each other. That's called respect. And the deal is in your marriage, if you want it to work, the main ingredient that both of you have to think about, which means that anger and rage are not great ingredients, is to be safe. If you want to be safe for each other, you have to work to unconditionally accept your partner for who they are and understand their limitations rather than try to make them into something you want them to be. The other problem is that leads to divorce is enabling negative behavior. Spouses are sometimes reluctant to confront or address negative actions and habits within a relationship. So let's say your partner goes and plays golf 3 days a week, or they are a flirt with other people, or they work 60 hours, 70 hours, 90 hours a week and have no boundaries for their job. Well, that means their priority is not the family, it's not the relationship. You know, a healthy marriage, you should be anticipating the time you're going to spend together. You should be, I cannot wait to see my spouse. I cannot wait to have time with them. And that is something you work for and you will make time for if you value it. However, people do this thing of trying to survive and pay for the house and pay for all the things, pay for the private school, pay for the cars, pay for all these things. We have to have vacations. We got to do all this stuff. And they load themselves down with debt and stupid expectations. And if you want to be depressed, have lots of expectations that you cannot meet. That's called credit card debt. Lots of expectations that you cannot meet, you don't have the resources for. If you want to survive depression, you better convert your thoughts to a preference. I prefer I had that kind of money, but I don't. I prefer we went to vacation at this place, but we don't. I prefer we'd be able to play for volleyball, soccer, and all this stuff in summer camps, but we don't have all the money. So we need to pick the priority of what is most important. That's called a budget. Your finances are your survival. And another form of divorce comes around how you manage your finances. And you need to do that together. You need to know what you have in the bank together. You need to know how you're saving together. Because if you do that, you both take great pride in how you manage your money and how you manage your house. That is an important thing. To leave that to one person is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Finances are your means of survival. It is important that both of you are plugged in. If you don't, there is going to be a power differential and somebody's going to control the wallet, and that is going to call for resentment. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come right back and talk more about how to preserve a marriage. So come back. Welcome back, everybody. All right, we're talking about why marriage fails. And, early on in the last segment, I was talking about the covenant of marriage. And what's really important is when you make a covenant in marriage, you have to understand that that is the only covenant, if you're a Christian, on this earth that you will make with another human being. And in that covenant, how you treat each other is supposed to reflect exactly where you stand with God. So, how you treat the turd you marry is where you stand with God. And we are having to adapt, like Adam and Eve, to this other creature. And how you treat them and how you adapt to them teaches you how to compromise. And in that compromise and in that communication and in that sacrifice and in all that entails with the responsibilities that come with marriage, you learn about how to take responsibility with God. And it's a hell of a lot easier with God than it is with a human being, because human beings are turds. They are crazy. They lose their mind. They are egotistical. They have all these earthly needs. Their priorities are all messed up. They are so easily susceptible to other people's opinions. They lose their minds. And that is the crazy thing. But if you can have a covenant with a human being, you can have a covenant with God pretty darn easy. And that's the whole thing. So it's really your fate in this world. It's your religious faith is what's at stake in your marriage. And how your children love you is how you love your children, by the way, is how God loves you. That's how you learn how God loves you. That's how you learn forgiveness, is because you will forgive these creatures that you created because they make lots of mistakes. And that is the bandwidth of how God loved you. And that is the whole sanctity of marriage from a cognitive, religious perspective, is that is the most sacred place in your life. Disrespecting relationship boundaries is another thing that truly breaks people up. People that are terrible listeners, people that are very self identity oriented. Here's the problem. You have to ask yourself, where is my self worth placed? Is my self worth placed in my job? Is it in my children? Is it my hobbies, my best friends, my family? Where is it? Because if it's not in your spouse, there's probably a big problem. Now, I'm not saying put all your self-worth in your spouse, because your spouse probably hates your guts. But the deal is that you have to put your self-worth in something that's healthy, but you need to put it in your marriage too. Because if you don't put it into your marriage, you're not going to manage your marriage very well. You're not going to manage your behavior very well. You're not going to have very good self-discipline. And you're not going to cherish your spouse. And you're not going to respect your husband. You guys have to focus on the value of your marriage. Your marriage is the thing that's going to dictate the course of concentration and focus that you're going to be able to have to do your job, to manage your children, to manage your finances, to go on vacations, to interact with your family. If your marriage is blown up, you are going to be in chaos. You are going to have anxiety. You are going to have depression. You're going to have OCD. You're going to have all kinds of coping habits like drinking and smoking and doing all kinds of stupid stuff simply because you guys aren't getting along. Once again, it's a will or won't. You either are married or you're not. And if it's a will or won't, that means we have to make it work. We have to make it work. That means we have to find a solution. That means we have to submit to each other to make it work. That is what you married for, and that is what your covenant is for. Also, navigating external stressors, external influences, like having affairs. People know when you are lonely in your marriage. People recognize qualities about you that indicate that you are unhappy in your marriage. And guess what? There's a lot of lonely people in this world. There's a lot of single people in this world, and everybody breeds now that we have birth control. And so breeding is not a big deal. And so guess what people do? They breed and they have affairs, and there's tons of that goes on in this world. And if you're exhibiting yourself as a lonely person and not connected to your spouse very well, and somebody finds themselves attracted to your butt or your boobs or whatever they find attractive, your body size, whatever it is that they find attractive about you, they're going to target and try to find out what is your love language. Do you like somebody blowing smoke up your ass and telling you how great you are? Do you like somebody telling you how attractive you are? Do you like gifts? Do you like spending quality time together? Do you like one-on-one conversations? They're going to find out how to break through that barrier so that they can develop a relationship with your lonely heart while you're married, because they're lonely and they want a relationship, and they have targeted you knowing you're miserable in your marriage and trapped, and you're probably not looking for somebody else. And so that makes you a big target for an affair. And yes, people look for that. Women will look for that. Men will look for that. All people look for that when they are lonesome, when they are poor, when they are sad, when they're in pain. They're looking for someone else in pain. They find someone else in pain, and they develop a relationship with that person and a bond, and they think that that is so special because both of them are in pain and soothing each other's pain. And then suddenly they find themselves divorced with half of the income that they had before, and their kids are miserable and their life is miserable, and the attorneys are celebrating, enjoying the wonderful riches that they've gained from your stupidity. There are many ways to minimize the impact of external stressors and strengths in a marital bond. You establish an emotionally safe space for open dialogue, which means that you have to work on trust. You can love somebody and not trust them, but when you trust someone, the love grows. So you can have a friend you haven't seen in 10 years, and you come back together and you trust each other. The relationship is going to grow. And that is what makes marriage work. That's what makes a relationship work, is trust. It's not love, it's trust. And that trust is the binder of the book. And if you create lots of lies, you're tearing the binder off the book, and the pages are going to start to come out, and you guys are not going to have a story to tell anymore. And a lot of people self-defeat because they're liars. They're white liars. They tell stupid lies to make themselves look good. They tell egotistical lies. They tell lies because they don't think you can hear the truth. You know what? That is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Just be an open book. If you're going to be in a relationship and have no integrity, you're probably going to be alone in a nursing home with somebody wiping your ass that you don't even know. So the deal is that people have to understand that your life is going to be measured by your integrity. Marriage is the most important thermometer as to how much integrity you have as a human being. So if you're going to be divorced 50 times, there's a good chance that you have no integrity. If you have had relationship problems your entire marriage, there's a good chance that integrity is a problem, because trust is a problem. You can't have a binded relationship. You can't have a fully committed relationship without trust. And some people just don't understand that. And they go through life with their egos and blow smoke up everybody's ass, and they think they're going to be just fine. But in the end, they're going to be empty in the relationship or empty without the relationship. Adversity requires adjustments. And so what we have to understand is, if you're going to be married, all of your conflicts are meant to make the relationship better. So you don't enter a conflict to tear your partner apart. You don't enter into conflict to become a narcissist and try to be right. You enter a conflict to try to understand your partner. That means that this argument means one thing to you, and it means another thing to me. So let's say it's discipline. Okay, I think you're going to be beating our kid into a pulp, and they're going to be afraid of you our whole lives. The other thinks, I've got to instill discipline in this child, or they will never listen to us and they will never respect. Okay, if we understand we have two different bases of the argument, now we can come up with a solution that is going to be more effective and involve both of us into the decision. You have to discuss what things mean before you discuss the outcome. What they mean to each person is different. That's why you're arguing. So you argue to make things better. That is the goal of marriage. Many people argue to be right because our narcissistic society teaches you you're right. Your narrative is correct. You're just a real good Democrat, or you're just a real good Republican, or you're just a real good crazy person. You're just really good at all this. No, no, we don't live in tribes. We live as human beings. We are very gray. And if you're going to live in a narrative, you've lost touch with being a human being. Struggling with uncertainty is another problem that creates a divorce. Uncertainty arises when people struggle with defining their wants and their needs in a relationship. And that means people are indecisive. If you're married to a weasel who's never ever made a decision in their life, yes, they probably make a decision every once in a while. But the deal is, if you got somebody that can't even make up their mind what they want for dinner or where they want to take the kids or what they want to do this weekend, you have married a turd. Turds are indecisive. Turds are immature. Turds have not adults. So people that cannot make decisions have not fully entered their adult life. Where do you want to go to dinner? I don't know. Where do you want to go? That is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You want to teach people how to love you in your marriage. What would you like for dinner? I don't know, maybe American, Chinese, or Mexican. What would you like? I don't know. I would like maybe Thai or whatever. But put it forward so both of you can come up with a decision. People that are indecisive are pleasers. Pleasers are the last to be pleased. Pleasers end up like roadkill, run over by a Mack truck. And what happens is you are instilling in your partner that they have to make all of the adult decisions in your life. Therefore, they're responsible for all the flaws in your life. So indecisive people love to nag the other partner for the decisions they make, but they themselves, the indecisive person, is the most worthless person in the relationship because they offered nothing. If you want to be an adult, step into your marriage, offer an opinion, and then debate the solution. Otherwise, you're going to lose your marriage because your marriage requires decisions and conflict. But you want to do it respectfully with each other. And unfortunately, people enter marriage and they want it all their way. And once again, you don't enter marriage to receive love, you enter marriage to give love. That is all. It is a one-way street, not a receive love, it is to give love. But both of you have to be committed to that. And if you don't, you're not going to have a good marriage because your job, if you're in a marriage, is to learn and understand how to love your partner the best way you possibly can. That is what you are doing to preserve your marriage, is you're putting your partner before yourself and deciding, I need to understand this person and how to make their life better, and they need to understand me and how to make my life better. And if both of you do that, you're going to have a good marriage. So there's another thing that really destroys marriage, a lack of intimacy. If you guys don't have intimacy, you guys are a floating target that you are 80% down the road for a divorce simply because you both are lonesome. And if somebody comes along, if you're a semi attractive, if you're even maybe 20% attractive, you are in the range for an affair. And I believe in the covenant of marriage. I would never do that. Well, yes, a lot of people will say that, but a lot of people don't do that. The deal is, if you're going to be lonesome in your marriage, marriage is the lonesomest place on the planet when it's not working. If you've got a partner that uses intimacy as a power differential, if they use intimacy to make you sleep in the other room because I can't stand you or you snore or you're terrible, blah, 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 blah. If they're going to withhold all that stuff, you're not going to be working on your marriage. What you have to understand is you have to have intimacy. What is intimacy? It's not just sex. It is kissing. It is touching. It is a kiss on the forehead, a touch on the back. It is hugging. It is understanding each other. It's holding each other and watching a movie. It is being together, holding hands periodically. It's not something lingering and gross. It is something where you have to enter each other's body space to know that you belong together. And if you don't enter the body space, somebody else is going to, and they're going to feel more attractive than you are. So if you don't enter each other's body space, there is a good chance, and that's that 2 foot space around you that you know where people are around you and know when somebody's too close. You're going to have to understand that you guys have to have intimacy in your life. You have to have it. And that means intercourse. That means oral. That means giving to each other. And if you're in a marriage to give love, that is part of what it takes to give love. And you need to be able to have discussions about intimacy that are just as simple as what do you want to have for dinner? That's how much stress should be involved in the time you have intimacy. And people are very busy. So here's the deal, you should make a window once or twice a week that we know in this 1 hour period, we have to discuss whether or not we're going to have any form of intimacy in that window. If you do that, like, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Like you plan dinner every night. Well, you need to plan an intimacy window, just like dinner. And then you want to anticipate it by talking about it throughout the day, just like what do you want for dinner? And guess what? You may have something that really both of you enjoy, and you may learn more about each other and learn how to be more and more and more attractive to each other. The lack of sympathy, trust, and respect is the other ingredient that tears a relationship down. But what is most important is empathy. I understand. I hear what you're saying. All right. So, what you're telling me is this, that means you're willing to step into their shoes and understand the world from their eyes. Many people will enter into an argument and try to be right. No, that's not true. That's not how it went. This this is what really happened. No, that's not how an argument works in marriage. An argument in marriage works like this. Okay, so you think I'm a real jerk. Okay, I understand. You see me having done this thing and that offends you. I hear that. I understand how you could feel. That's how you're supposed to approach it. Not with this, I am right, you're wrong, my truth is more important than yours, you're not valid, you're not correct. But some people are so egotistical and so caught up in themselves, they cannot break that pattern. They just have to tell the other person, no matter what, no matter if, even if they're well intended and hear what I'm saying, they still have to go back and tell their partner how incorrect they are. These analytical people are crazy makers. They have no business in a relationship if they can't get over themselves. If you're going to be in a marriage, you better understand your partner's perspective, and you better have the lack of ego and the humbleness to hear what they have to say about you and understand that that perception is what they are entitled to, and you need to validate it. And that is where you begin to solve the problem. If you have to tell them what the truth is, you want them to understand your intentions. And they don't want to understand your intentions. They want you to take accountability first. And that is the most important part of communication in a marriage. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come right back and talk more about what it takes to make marriage work, but how to not make it fail. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about why marriage fails. And the number one ingredient for why marriage fails is people have a wimpy approach to commitment. They debate and debate their marriage all throughout their marriage. And if you're going to debate your marriage and you're going to say divorce, 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 you're probably going to get divorced. And guess what? You breed, you have these kids, and who's the victim? They are. They are the victims of your own immaturity and your lack of commitment. You have no business breeding if you don't know what a commitment is. If you can't commit, you really should not be in a relationship. You should not be in a marriage. You should not be buying homes. You should not be buying a car. You should not even be taking a responsible job or becoming a manager. You have no business. Commitment is what it takes to make a marriage work. Commitment is what it takes for two people to be in love and to self-actualize throughout their marriage and make it happen. And that means you're all the way in. There is no debate on whether we're going to be together. It's going to how we're going to be together. That is the question. Now, lots of people look on the internet for what they could have, and the grass is greener on the other side all the time. But I'll tell you, every grass is greener solution has another set of problems with it. Now, when you divorce, you are cutting your child's ability to have income in half. You're destroying their quality of life. And as you keep getting divorced, your children's life disintegrates. So if you have no ability to make commitments, stop breeding, stop creating children, because they are your victims. And there are so many idiots that get married without the understanding of what commitment is. And then they put their children through absolute hell because they cannot sustain what they signed up for. And if you marry somebody that doesn't understand commitment, you need to understand that if they don't understand commitment, then maybe, yes, you should get divorced because they're too immature to be married. But you want to do that before you have the kids instead of after. Some people think if they breed, it's going to stop that person from being the alcoholic or the idiot. No, that just makes them worse. The other ingredient that divorce creates is that creates divorce is arguing or conflict. People make arguing so personal. You have to understand, if somebody's going to be calling you names, somebody's going to be saying, you always do this horrible thing. They're going to say, you're such a jerk. I can't stand you. You know, whatever horrible names they're going to call you. What they're really doing is they're saying, you are a really crappy listener. And you are such a bad listener that I have to say these horrible things to you just to get your attention. And then what do? Because you're egotistical and a crappy listener? You focus on what they said instead of the fact that you're a crappy listener. So here's the deal. Smart people are really good at talking. Wise people are really good at listening. Wisdom is what makes marriage work. If you're a crappy listener, you are a crappy person to be married to. You better know that you need to understand your family, your children, your spouse. That is your job. It's not for them to understand you. It's for your ugly ass to understand them. That is what people have to do if they want to be married. But many people enter marriage to be heard rather than to listen. And if you're one of those, you better rethink your strategy unless you want to be alone in life or if you want to be miserable being married. Listening is what makes people safe. The listener is in charge of the conversation. But that may call for you to be more than just, oh, I'm so brain dead after work that I can't even think. I don't even want to spend, I just can't do, that's a bunch of crap. Focus, focus. Your best job and your greatest job and the thing you're going to be remembered for is how you treat people. It is not what you do with people, it's how you treat people. That's how you're going to be remembered. And if you come home to the people who love you the most and treat them like crap, you're going to be remembered for that. No matter how hard you work, and no matter how many millions of dollars, and no matter how beautiful your house is, and how many cars you've purchased, and how popular you've become, if you're a turd, you're a turd. And turds are not remembered well. Infidelity is the other problem. Infidelity happens from loneliness, and people that don't vest in their marriage and don't vest in their intimacy and don't vest in learning how to love their partner generally have infidelity problems. And that may be emotional infidelity, it could be physical infidelity, or it could be both. But it sure is a recreational sport in our culture today across the world. Infidelity will destroy a marriage because your covenant is gone. Your trust is gone. Betrayal is there. Failure is in front of you. Your children's lives are sitting in front of you. Your future is in front of you because of the turd that had the infidelity. Infidelity affects lots of people, not just the one that had the affair. And so, what you have to think about is the idea that people will remember how they feel when you hurt them more than they remember how you hurt them. So, why a person nags a person that has had infidelity in marriage for months and years is because they will never forget how they hurt. It's not that they can't forget what you did. What you did is what they remember, but the hurt is what they continue to feel. And if you've never taken accountability for what you've done to other human beings and how you've affected them, and you never truly understood the impact it's had on their lives, there's a good chance that hurt is going to continue to be brought up over and over and over again. If you're going to be married, you have to understand what forgiveness is. Now, if you're a person who wants to have a forgiving heart, you have to think in terms of this. Instead of asking, why did you do this? Why did you have this affair? Why did you do this terrible thing? Why did you not wash the dishes? Why did you lie to me? When you ask why questions, you are hammering on the outcome. That is giving you nothing. It's a motive-based question that is basically means that you have judged them to be a bad person. If you want forgiveness, you need to examine what led you to make this decision. How did you make this decision? Now you're talking where forgiveness is. It's in the process leading to the decision. How or what are the questions you want to ask? If you want your children to lie to you, ask them why questions because they know that you already have an answer. If you want your children to open up to you and you want your spouse to open up to you, ask them what led you to make that decision? How did you arrive at that choice? Now you're looking at the content or the context that led to the content. That is the important ingredient because that means you have a forgiving heart. Many people are why based. And if you're a why based person, you're a turd. It's really hard to deal with you. It's really hard to be with you. It's hard to be around you because you think you know everything and nobody else knows anything. And you are above everybody. What and how means you're in the ditch with people and try to understand the process. There's a huge difference between the two. You need to learn it if you want to be a good communicator. People marry too young. You know, the marriage age nowadays, the average marriage age that works is about 28 for a female and about 32 for a male. That is because what used to be 18 is now 32. People don't know who the hell they are, what they want, where they're going. It's not like employers are dedicated to you. It's not like they want to retire you. You know, the bottom line is your jobs are going to hire you as long as you are effective. And if you're not effective, they're going to let you go unless you work for the federal government. Then you can work there for 5,000 years and never do anything for your life. But the bottom line is that if you're going to be a human being in a corporation, they're going to use you and spit you out. And that means you better have a skill set that will carry with you all the way into your old age because retirement is out the door, especially when you're 50. If you work for a corporation when you're 50, there's a good chance you're going to get early retirement because they don't want your ugly ass because you're going to be sick. You're going to have problems. You're going to have heart attacks. You're not taking care of yourself, and they don't want to deal with it. And so they let you go and have the people with younger ideas and bring them forward. Unrealistic expectations about your partner or your marriage is the other one. Well, I expect everybody to clean the house when they come home. I expect you to do your homework. I expect the dishes to be washed. I expect this. I expect that. I expect everything. I expect the lawn to be mowed. I expect you to greet me at the door with a kiss. No, it's not how life works. Everybody is not aligned to you as God. If you're a person with expectations, you are not God. You're not God. You are a human. And in your marriage, preferences. I prefer. I prefer a kiss when I get home. I prefer the kids got their homework done. I prefer that the dishes got washed. Now we're talking about expressing your wants and needs in a way that's healthy so everybody knows how to love you. That's a much better way to operate. However, people are so egotistical, they have to have expectations. And if you're going to live in expectations, people are going to let you down. Every time an expectation is not met, it's failure and betrayal. Those are pretty strong emotions to have. And if you're going to operate in marriage with failure and betrayal all the time because nobody meets your expectations, including yourself, you're going to be pretty irritable and angry all the time. Inadequate preparation for marriage is another problem. People don't know what they're getting into. Premarital counseling, real premarital counseling. I'm not talking about 2 visits with your pastor. I'm talking about like taking Prepare and Enrich, like an exam, and trying to figure out how we're different, how we can reconcile problems, how we can communicate, how we can keep our sex life, how we can deal with our families, how we can deal with our finances. What are we going to do about kids? What's discipline going to look like? These are all very important things you're going to be doing during marriage, and you need to know your thoughts about it before you get married so you can come up with better solutions and develop better insight and communications. The other thing is domestic violence. People walk around irritable and angry. And if you're irritable and angry, there's a good idea that you are probably a big worrier and you're big on overwhelmed. And little things can make you overwhelmed. And if you're walking around thinking you're a victim and your partner is a horrible person and you love to make them out to be a horrible person, you're probably going to be somebody that's going to be involved in some kind of domestic violence. Now, if you live in a state like Washington, all you'll have to do as a male is or a female, raise your voice to your partner, make them scared, and then guess what? That's called domestic violence. Yes, just raising your voice is domestic violence. You could go to jail for that in the state of Washington and many other aggressive states. That's how it is. As a matter of fact, there's hardly any domestic violence attorneys in those states because there are no laws to protect you while you have raised your voice and threatened someone. If you're going to be that way, there's a good chance you're going to be involved in domestic violence. So if you want to be an ogre, you're probably going to end up in jail or without a family. Financial problems is the other part. People love to hide their finances because they feel entitled and they want to get their comfort by shopping and Amazon and ordering thousands and thousands of dollars of things. Some women and some men love to punish their partner who may be the provider by basically ordering thousands of things on Amazon just to torture you for all the crap that I have to put up with. I'm going to buy things that comfort me. A lack of family support is another reason. Many people do not develop friendships. Many people do not connect with their families. Many people alienate from their support systems. Many people like to hibernate, especially after COVID. If you don't have family support, if you don't have other marriages you interact with, you have no role models, you have no understanding of safety, you're not connected enough to have an out from your marriage outlets where other people are living life just like you and you can reflect on them. You need that in your life. But many people back away from those relationships. You need to throw yourself towards relationships if you're going to be married, especially couples, because couples have to navigate problems and they help each other out. All right, that's our show. I want to thank everybody for listening. I love hearing from you. You could do that on our webpage at voiceamerica.com, the empowerment, the health and wellness channels, Dr. Gary Bell's Absurd Psychology. Now, remember, if you're the best man, why is the woman marrying the other guy? Also, in marriage, a man loses his bachelor's degree and a woman gains her master's degree. Also, before marriage, a man is not complete after he is finished. Also, marriage requires remembering to take out the trash. Thanks for listening.